when in the Cartesian cell there in France, I came across not only the Purgatory manuscript, but the Hell one, and there are certain things that run through the two of them. One is the description of the separation of soul and body, and the difference is that in the case of the soul that has refused all grace, fundamentally, at the last, it itself propels itself from God. As regards the soul in purgatory, it is happy to be where it is, but it suffers a lot, and realizes for the first time what the demands of Divine Majesty are. It cannot, therefore, want to go to God before it's ready, for to do so would be to go towards a great fire that would burn it. And so it is happy to be there wherever it has to be, for whatever time it has to be, although it would tend to want to have help. Therefore, there's a big difference between those who propel themselves as far as possible from God, and by orientation are against Him and cannot be reformed, because they will never ever go towards what they're made for. Hence their loss is atrocious, utter and complete despair, no hope at all. Abandon hope, all ye that enter here. It's the translation of what Dante puts over the doors of hell. And so, what gets a person into that state is the abuse of grace and the repulsion of grace. And we can see from the letter from hell that there is always on the part of the Creator the solicitation, discreet but present, sometimes actually not so discreet. The description of one point when she hears, when her father is dying, what if your father dies? And she hears it 3 times, and it's objective, as though the salvation of her father depended on her at that point, for the father had been good to her in some way. And she, in the end, replies, I don't care. And afterwards her father dies, and we can only imagine what he found on the other side. We don't know, but certainly he wasn't in a good place when he died. No sacraments, no preparation. He was going to fetch more beer from the cellar. The daughter, on the other hand, hears this imploration on the last day of her life. You could go to Mass one more time. It's a Sunday morning. And she gives this fundamental no. Let's be finished with this once and for all. And soon after that, she dies in the accident and wakes up and realizes the state that she's in and the consequences. It's a very different tone, therefore, but the bottom line is the same. The reality of the beyond is far more real than our own. It's the only one that matters in the end. And people live their life on earth in complete inverse mode. Only this life. Perhaps there's something on the other side, but I'll think of that when I get there. It's not a wise way to affront eternity. Lent is a time to remind ourselves that all we do here is relative. There, it's absolute and irreversible, depending on the use we make of this. So we hear from this lost soul how the Lord had tried to get through to her. I didn't change for all that, because fascinated by the force of habit, as I've already said, I was drawn on by it. And that's what happens at the last solicitation. The soul just goes on saying no by force of habit. Even if there is some grey area when they're just on the point of going into the beyond forever and they're losing consciousness for us, there may be some last mercy given to them, but they tend to say no again, even there, if they always have. That's the way in which the soul operates. It's used to saying no to the light. A week ago, I speak with your figures as regards the pain. I could say without exaggerating that this is my 10th year of burning in hell. A week ago, then, my husband and I went on an outing for the Sunday, one last, and then she goes on to describe how this imploration come into her heart. It's strange that in the course of that same morning, this thought had once more come to my mind, quite inexplicably. You could one more time go to Mars. It resounded in me like an imploration. So the words coming in there, she knew what they meant, and she knew sort of their importance. But even that was not enough. So God will not insist against the soul's wish. He has given us power against him. He respects what he has made, the free will. And she goes on to describe precisely that separation at the moment of death. As for me, at the moment of my death, I woke suddenly out of the fog. I found myself as though flooded by a dazzling light. I was on the very spot on which my corpse was lying. It was as it happens in the theatre, when in one go all the lights go out, leaving nothing to be seen but the stage. The curtains separate with a great din and open on an unexpected scene, horribly luminous, the scene of my life. As though in a great mirror, my soul showed itself to itself. The graces spurned from my early days right up to that last no in God's face. And she goes on to the consequences. The soul itself expels itself from the presence of God, which it cannot approach. It's its own judge. It has no choice. It's the same as the fundamental fall of Satan. He had no choice once he rebelled, but to go as far as possible. And he himself invented, as it were, that place of refuge, the only thing that he could do, the opposite of heaven, hell. But the way the devil got that soul is subtle, and it's the same that he does nowadays. I walked in paths that were a long way from God, and yet God was pursuing me. I was smoothing out the way for grace by reason of the acts of natural charity that I did quite often just by inclination. Sometimes God would draw me towards a church. I then felt as it were a nostalgia. When I cared for my sick mother, in spite of my office work throughout the day, I was in one way practicing self-sacrifice, and then the pools of grace were very powerful. Once in the hospital chapel, where you had led me during the lunch break, there happened something such that at that point only, one step would have been needed for me to be converted. I cried. Now that can be also the blessing in disguise of many people. A tragedy can be a grace. Tears can be grace-filled. But the world's joy passed once again like a torrent over Grace's head. The good seed was really being suffocated among the briars, under the pretext that religion was but a matter of sentiment, as they often said in the office. I rejected once again this notion of grace, like all others. So it is that she was heard in exorcism.